The private dining room at Ashford Hall gleamed under chandeliers that cost more than most cars. Crystal glasses caught the light like captured stars. At the head of the mahogany table sat Marcus Ashford, 52, silver-haired, wearing a charcoal suit that whispered wealth with every movement. The puzzle box rested between the wine bottles, translucent crystal panels, intricate mechanisms visible inside, geometric symbols etched along its edges. Marcus leaned back, a slight smile playing at his lips. 20 minutes, he said. Harvard mathematicians couldn't solve it in an hour. His dinner guests, executives, investors, potential partners, had all tried and failed. Their fingers had fumbled over the panels, searching for the pattern. Now they sipped their wine, defeated, while Marcus savored their embarrassment like vintage bourbon. It's about seeing what others miss, Marcus continued. Intelligence separated from arrogance. Vision from blindness. In the doorway, barely visible, stood Zara. 12 years old, dark braids pulled back, wearing a yellow hoodie that had seen too many washes. She held her mother's hand, but her eyes were locked on the puzzle box. The patterns called to her like music only she could hear. She stepped forward, 3 steps into the room before anyone noticed. Her small hands reached for the box. Marcus turned, irritation flashing across his face. But before he could speak, Zara's fingers moved. Click, rotate, slide. The panels shifted in her hands with mathematical precision. 17 seconds. The box opened with a soft chime. Inside, a diamond caught the light. Silence crashed through the room like broken glass. 6 hours earlier, Naomi's alarm had shattered the 5 a.m. darkness. She rolled out of bed in their studio apartment on Archer Street, where the radiator clanged but never quite produced heat. The floor was cold beneath her feet. Zara slept in the alcove behind a curtain Naomi had hung for privacy. Through the fabric, Naomi could see textbooks stacked beside the mattress. Advanced calculus, number theory, books borrowed from the library because they couldn't afford to buy them. Naomi was 28 but felt older. Her mother's hands, the same hands that had cleaned other people's houses for 30 years. She saw them every time she looked down at her own. Strong, worn, worthy. Ashford Hall was a 40-minute bus ride across town. The restaurant occupied the ground floor of Marcus Ashford's headquarters, a glass tower that pierced the skyline. Naomi had worked there for 3 years, serving wealth she couldn't imagine to people who barely saw her. She was good at her job, invisible when needed, efficient always, professional even when patrons treated her like furniture. The pay was decent. The tips were better. She needed both. Zara's acceptance letter to Thornfield Academy had arrived 2 weeks ago. Full academic scholarship pending a board recommendation. Thornfield was where brilliant students went, where futures were built, where poverty stopped being destiny. The recommendation was supposed to be a formality. Marcus Ashford chaired Thornfield's board. Naomi had submitted the paperwork with trembling hands, hope beating fragile wings in her chest. Zara deserved this. Zara had earned this. Zara's mind worked in ways that made professors stammer, and guidance counselors reach for their phones to call university contacts. But hope was dangerous. Naomi had learned that early. She tied her hair back, pressed her uniform, and kissed Zara's forehead before leaving. The morning bus was crowded. She stood holding the rail, watching the city transform from her neighborhood to theirs. The emergency had come during lunch service. Naomi's neighbor called. Zara was sick at school. Not serious, but she needed to come home. Naomi had no choice but to bring her to work for the evening shift. She'll stay in the break room, Naomi had promised the manager. You won't even know she's here. But Zara was curious. Brilliant minds don't sit still easily. She'd wandered, drawn by voices from the private dining room, by the puzzle box gleaming on the table like a mathematical challenge wrapped in crystal. Now Marcus stood. His face had transformed from shock to something colder. He looked at Zara the way someone might look at a stain on expensive upholstery. What is this? His voice cut through the silence. Naomi. Naomi rushed forward from where she'd been frozen in the doorway. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "Mr. Ashford, I'm so sorry. She was supposed to stay in the— This isn't a daycare." Marcus's words landed like stones. "This is a business dinner, a private event." He gestured at Zara as if she were evidence of incompetence. "Do you understand the word private?" The dinner guests shifted uncomfortably. One woman studied her wineglass. A man coughed softly. Diane Chen, the only woman at the table besides the one studying her wine, watched with narrowed eyes. "She solved it," Diane said quietly. "In less than 20 seconds, Marcus's jaw tightened. "That's not the point. The point is professionalism, boundaries, standards." He turned to Naomi. "I expect better judgment from my staff." "This is unacceptable." Zara's eyes filled. She looked up at her mother, then at Marcus, then down at her shoes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I just wanted to help." "Help?" Marcus's laugh was sharp. "This is a 300-year-old puzzle. Mathematicians have studied it. And you—" He stopped himself, but the implication hung in the air like smoke. Naomi's hand found Zara's shoulder. "We're leaving." "I apologize, Mr. Ashford." Her voice was steady, but her hand shook. "See that this doesn't happen again," Marcus said, already turning back to his guests. "Bring the dessert course in 10 minutes." The guests' laughter was uncomfortable, polite, complicit. They returned to their conversations while Naomi guided Zara out of the room. Behind them, Marcus picked up the crystal puzzle box. The diamond inside caught the light. He'd spent 6 months trying to solve it. 20 seconds. A child. His reflection stared back from the crystal, distorted and unfamiliar. The staff bathroom was small and cold. Naomi locked the door and leaned against it, eyes closed, breathing through her nose. Her hands trembled. She pressed them flat against the door until they stilled. Outside she could hear the kitchen noise. Dishes clattering. Orders being called. The ordinary machinery of service grinding forward. But inside her head was Zara's voice. "I just wanted to help." 12 years old and already learning that brilliance wasn't enough. That being right mattered less than knowing your place. That solving the unsolvable wouldn't earn respect if you looked like them, came from where they came from. Naomi had faced this her entire life. The assumptions, the invisible ceiling, the way people looked past her, even when she stood directly in front of them. She'd built armor against it. Thick skin, low expectations, the practical wisdom her mother had passed down like an inheritance. Don't expect fairness, baby. Expect to work twice as hard for half as much. But Zara, God, Zara deserved better than this inheritance. The scholarship application sat in Marcus's office somewhere, pending his recommendation. Naomi had believed, stupidly, desperately, that merit would speak for itself. That Zara's test scores and transcripts would be enough. That someone like Marcus Ashford, who sat on educational boards and gave speeches about opportunity, would see Zara's potential and open doors. Instead, he'd seen an intrusion, a boundary violation. A black girl who didn't know her place. Naomi opened her eyes. Her reflection in the mirror looked tired, worn. But beneath the exhaustion, something else flickered. Something her mother had also passed down, though she'd never named it. Rage. Clean and cold and clarifying. She straightened her uniform, checked her face, and walked back out to finish her shift. Naomi's mother had been named Ruth. She cleaned houses in the suburbs for 3 decades, raising Naomi alone after Naomi's father disappeared when she was 2. Ruth had scrubbed toilets and polished silver and smiled at people who never learned her name. "You can survive anything," Ruth used to say, "if you remember who you are." Naomi had inherited that strength. She'd used it to graduate high school despite working 2 jobs. Used it to survive her own failed relationships, including Zara's father, David, who'd been brilliant and kind and died in a car accident when Zara was 6 months old. David had been a mathematician. Adjunct professor, underpaid, overlooked, but in love with numbers the way poets love words. He'd see patterns everywhere, in traffic lights, in the way rain fell, in the random scatter of leaves on pavement. The universe is just math showing off, he'd say. Zara had his mind. From the time she could talk, she'd counted everything. By age 5, she was doing multiplication in her head. By 8, she was teaching herself algebra from library books. By 10, her school had run out of math courses to give her. The guidance counselor had pulled Naomi aside. She's exceptional, genuinely gifted. She needs resources we don't have. Thornfield Academy had those resources. Small classes, individual attention, teachers who understood minds like Zara's, alumni networks that led to scholarships, internships, futures. It was the kind of place where brilliant black girls could become doctors, engineers, professors. But it cost $60,000 a year. The scholarship was everything. Without it, Zara would stay at Lincoln High, where the math teacher was a basketball coach who taught from a textbook, where gifted students learned to hide their intelligence to avoid mockery, where potential went to die quietly. Naomi had filled out the application with cramping hands, written essays, gathered transcripts, requested teacher recommendations, done everything right. The acceptance letter had felt like answered prayers, pending board approval. Pending Marcus Ashford's signature, she'd believed it would be okay. She'd believed merit mattered. She'd believed the system worked sometimes for people like them. Ruth's voice whispered in her memory, "Don't expect fairness, baby." But Naomi had expected it anyway. And now Zara was paying the price for her mother's foolish hope. It was past midnight when Naomi left the dining room for the last time that night. The guests had finally departed. The tables were cleared. The kitchen staff had gone home. Only management remained, counting receipts, closing out the night. She needed to retrieve her jacket from the staff room. The route took her past Marcus's office on the second floor. She'd walked this hallway 1,000 times without ever looking through the glass walls. Tonight she looked. Marcus sat at his desk, still in his shirt and tie, staring at a computer screen. His face was illuminated by the blue light, haggard and frustrated. Papers covered his desk, 3 empty coffee cups. He ran his hands through his silver hair and swore softly. Naomi should have kept walking. Should have gotten her jacket and gone home. Should have caught the late bus and fallen asleep and woken up to face another day. But something made her pause. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the same instinct that had drawn Zara to the puzzle box. The office door was open a crack. Sound leaked through. 3 weeks, Marcus was saying into his phone. The merger signing is in 3 weeks, and we still can't solve the logistics algorithm. If we can't optimize the supply chain distribution, the whole deal falls apart. Silence as he listened. Yes, I know we have the best people. The best people have failed. Naomi's breath caught. She shifted position slightly, just enough to see the computer screen through the glass. Numbers, matrices, network diagrams. A complex optimization problem spread across multiple monitors. She'd seen problems like this before, simplified versions anyway, in the textbooks Zara brought home. Distribution networks, shortest path algorithms, graph theory. Marcus slammed his hand on the desk. I don't care about excuses. Solve it, or this $3 billion merger dies. My reputation dies with it. He hung up, sat in silence, then pulled up something else on his screen. An email with Thornfield Academy's letterhead, Naomi's letterhead. Zara's application. Marcus stared at it for a long moment. Then he typed, "Recommendation denied. Concerns regarding family integrity and respect for institutional boundaries." He hit send. Naomi's hand flew to her mouth, stifling the gasp. She backed away from the glass, heart thundering, vision blurring with tears she refused to let fall. The logistics problem lingered in her mind. The patterns, the structure. She'd watched Zara solve problems like that dozens of times, explaining the logic in her patient, excited voice. It's just about finding the optimal path, Mum, like connecting dots but with math. A dangerous thought crystallized in Naomi's mind. Zara could solve Marcus's problem. Naomi knew it with absolute certainty. The same mind that had unlocked the crystal puzzle in 17 seconds could untangle his unsolvable algorithm. But he'd just destroyed her daughter's future out of spite. Out of embarrassed pride. Out of cruelty. Naomi stood in the darkened hallway, caught between rage and possibility, while the elevator hummed somewhere in the building's depths. The question wasn't whether Zara could solve it. The question was what happened if she did. Naomi didn't sleep that night. She sat at their small kitchen table, while Zara slept behind the curtain, the logistics problem reconstructed from memory on notebook paper. By dawn, she had enough details. For breakfast, Zara had solved it. "It's actually pretty elegant," Zara said, pencil flying across the page. "See? You use Dijkstra's algorithm here but modify it for weighted distribution. Then apply constraint optimization. The bottleneck is this hub. Relocate it here and efficiency increases by 42%. Naomi stared at the solution. Pages of calculations, diagrams, proof. All in her daughter's careful handwriting. All correct. She knew it the way mothers know things. "This is for the restaurant?" Zara asked. "Something like that," Naomi said. "Thank you, baby." Monday morning, Naomi arrived at Ashford Hall an hour early. Marcus's assistant, Jennifer, was already at her desk outside his office. Mid-40s, efficient, wearing a navy blazer that probably cost more than Naomi's monthly rent. "I need to give Mr. Ashford something," Naomi said. Jennifer barely looked up. "You can leave it with me. It's about the merger. The logistics problem." Now Jennifer looked up. Her expression shifted from dismissive to cautious. "What about it?" Naomi placed the manila envelope on the desk. Inside were Zara's calculations typed up, anonymized. No names, no signature, just pure mathematics. Someone solved it. He should see this. Jennifer's hand hovered over the envelope. "Mr. Ashford doesn't take unsolicited advice from—" She stopped herself. "From waitresses." Naomi finished. "I know. But he's desperate. And this works, please." She walked away before Jennifer could refuse. 2 days later, the building buzzed with energy. The merger was proceeding. Marcus had found the solution. His team was implementing the algorithm. Investors were pleased. The signing was back on schedule. Naomi heard it from other staff members. Whispers in the break room. Excitement from management. Marcus Ashford had done it again, proven his genius, saved the deal, secured his legacy. She felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just emptiness. Zara's rejection letter from Thornfield had arrived that morning. Official. Final. "We regret to inform you." Friday afternoon, Jennifer appeared in the staff room. "Mr. Ashford wants to know who submitted the solution." Her voice was tight. "Was it you?" Naomi kept folding napkins. "Does it matter? It worked. He needs to know. Why? So he can thank them. Offer them a job." Naomi looked up. "Or so he can make sure they never work in this industry again." Jennifer's silence was answer enough. She left without another word. That evening, Marcus called an all-staff meeting, mandatory. Everyone crammed into the main dining room after closing. He stood at the front, perfectly composed. "Someone submitted an unauthorized solution to a confidential business problem," he said. "That's theft of intellectual property. Corporate espionage." His eyes scanned the room. "I want to know who." The room held its breath. Naomi felt every eye eventually land on her. She'd been there longest, worked closest to management, had access. But more than that, they knew. Staff always knew. Naomi. Marcus's voice cut across the space. "Do you have something to share?" She met his gaze. "No, sir." The lie tasted like copper, like her mother's warnings. Like survival, Marcus smiled, cold, knowing. "Very well. But understand, I will find out. And when I do, there will be consequences." The merger signing was scheduled for Tuesday, 3 days away. Sunday night, Marcus appeared at Naomi's apartment door. She opened it to find him standing in the hallway, still wearing a suit despite the late hour. Behind him, the building's fluorescent lights flickered and buzzed. He looked out of place, too polished, too expensive, too everything. "How did you HR files?" he said simply. "May I come in?" It wasn't really a question. Naomi stepped aside. He entered, taking in the studio apartment in one sweeping glance. The curtained alcove, the textbooks, the small table. The life she'd built from nothing. Zara emerged from behind the curtain, rubbing her eyes. She froze when she saw Marcus. "You," Marcus said, pointing at Zara. "You solved my logistics problem. Not your mother, you silence." Naomi's hand found Zara's shoulder. "The handwriting in the original notes," Marcus continued. "I had it analyzed. Matched it to the signature on your Thornfield application." He pulled out papers, Zara's calculations, her application essay, side by side. Same loops, same pressure points, same brilliant, infuriating mind. "She was helping," Naomi said. "That's all. I saw your problem and you stole confidential information. Used your daughter to solve it, then submitted it anonymously to manipulate me." Marcus's voice was soft, dangerous. "That's espionage, fraud, multiple violations of your employment contract." "You were stuck," Naomi shot back. "The merger was failing. She saved you billions and you know it." "That's not the point." Marcus stepped closer. "The point is trust, integrity, knowing your place." He turned to Zara. "You're a clever girl. I'll grant you that. But cleverness without ethics is just theft wearing a better suit." Zara's eyes welled with tears. "I've already contacted Thornfield," Marcus continued. "Updated my recommendation. Cited integrity concerns, family instability, questionable judgment." He pulled out another document. "Your scholarship has been revoked, permanently." The paper hit the table. Official Thornfield letterhead. "Scholarship withdrawn. Concerns raised by Board Chair Marcus Ashford. Decision is final." Naomi couldn't breathe. The room tilted. "You can't. She earned that. She did everything right. She helped her mother commit corporate espionage," Marcus said. "That's what she did." He moved toward the door. "You're fired, effective immediately. Don't return to Ashford Hall. I'll have your final check mailed." "The merger signing," Naomi said desperately. "All those cameras, all that press. What if they knew? What if everyone knew a 12-year-old black girl solved your impossible problem, and you repaid her by destroying her future?" Marcus paused at the door, turned. His smile was ice. "Who would believe you? A fired waitress with an axe to grind against her former employer? Please." He opened the door. "Goodbye, Naomi. I'd wish you luck, but we both know luck has nothing to do with where people like you end up." The door clicked shut. Naomi sank into a chair. Zara stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. On the table, the rejection letter seemed to pulse with finality. Outside, a siren wailed. The radiator clanged. The city hummed its indifferent symphony. Naomi's phone buzzed. A text from her neighbor. Saw the news. "Ashford merger signing Tuesday. Huge deal. Sorry about your job Tuesday, 2 days." The signing would happen. Marcus would take credit. The $3 billion deal would close. He would win. They would lose. Everything would continue exactly as it always had. Unless Naomi looked at Zara, at the calculations spread across their table, at the textbooks stacked like monuments to a future now burning to ash, her mother's voice, "Don't expect fairness, baby." But Zara's voice, softer, "I just wanted to help." Naomi reached for her phone, scrolled through contacts, found one name she'd saved from the dinner party. The woman who'd spoken up, who had watched everything with intelligent, measuring eyes. Diane Chen, partner at Ashford's merger firm. Naomi's finger hovered over the call button. 2 days until the signing. 2 days to decide if survival meant silence, or if some battles were worth fighting even when you knew you'd lose. She pressed call. The phone rang 4 times before going to voicemail. Naomi hung up without leaving a message. She tried again Monday morning. Voicemail, again at noon, voicemail. By evening she understood Diane wasn't answering. No job. No scholarship. No way forward. The apartment felt smaller than ever. Naomi sat at the table staring at past due bills. Rent was due in 8 days. She had enough for maybe 2 weeks if they ate carefully. After that, nothing. Zara hadn't spoken since Sunday night. She stayed behind the curtain, curled up with her textbooks, not reading them, just holding them like relics of a life that had almost been hers. Naomi tried calling other restaurants. No one was hiring. Word traveled fast in the industry. Marcus Ashford's name carried weight. When she finally got one manager on the phone, his voice was apologetic but firm. "We can't take the risk, sorry." Tuesday morning arrived like a sentencing. The merger signing was scheduled for 2 p.m. Naomi saw the news coverage on her phone. Reporters gathering outside Ashford Tower. Investors in expensive cars. The business world watching Marcus Ashford cement another victory. She thought of her mother. Ruth had survived 3 decades of invisible labor, had taught Naomi to endure, to persist, to accept that the system wasn't built for people like them and to survive anyway. You can survive anything if you remember who you are. But who was she? A fired waitress. A failed mother. Someone who dared to hope and paid the price for that arrogance. Naomi walked to the window, looked out at the city. Somewhere across town, Marcus was preparing for his moment, straightening his tie, rehearsing his remarks, accepting congratulations for solving a problem he couldn't solve. The puzzle box. 17 seconds. Zara's small hands moving with perfect precision, while men who'd spent millions on education watched in stunned silence. That was who Zara was. Brilliant. Unstoppable. Worth fighting for. The question was who Naomi was willing to become. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Naomi. A woman's voice, crisp, familiar. "This is Diane Chen. I'm sorry I couldn't call sooner. I needed to do some research first." A pause. "We need to talk. Now." They met at a coffee shop 3 blocks from Naomi's apartment. Diane arrived in a charcoal pantsuit, carrying a leather briefcase. She sat across from Naomi, ordered nothing, and opened the briefcase. "I've spent the last day investigating Marcus Ashford," Diane said. "His credentials, his history, his claims." She pulled out documents. "He's a fraud." Naomi blinked. "What? His PhD from MIT? Doesn't exist. I called them, no record. His early patents? Purchased from other researchers whose names were scrubbed from the records." Diane spread papers across the table. "His entire career is built on stolen work and fabricated achievements. Why are you telling me this?" "Because I was at that dinner." Diane's eyes were hard. "I watched him humiliate you. Humiliate your daughter. And then I watched her solve a puzzle in seconds that he'd used for years to prove his genius." She leaned forward. "He's a bully and a liar. I don't do business with either. The merger is based on his supposed expertise solving that logistics problem." Diane smiled grimly. "Except he didn't solve it. Your daughter did. And I can prove it." Naomi's heart hammered. "How?" "The solution he submitted to my firm? It came with metadata, timestamps. The original file was created on his system, yes, but modified from an uploaded document." Diane pulled out a USB drive. "This document, the one with your daughter's handwriting, the one he's claiming as his own work. He'll deny it. He will." Diane checked her watch. "The signing is in 3 hours. Press will be there, investors, board members from Thornfield Academy." She looked at Naomi. "What if we told them the truth? Who would believe us? What if Zara proved it? Live in front of everyone." Diane pulled out another document. "There's a secondary algorithm in the merger proposal. Smaller, but equally complex. Part of the supply chain optimization. No one solved it yet because we've been focused on the main problem." She slid the paper across the table. Naomi looked at the equations. "The matrices. The optimization problem. You want Zara to solve this?" "At the signing. I want her to solve it in front of the cameras." In front of Marcus. In front of everyone who matters. Diane's smile was sharp. I want her to prove she's the one who solved the first problem. And I want Marcus to watch his empire collapse in real time. He'll destroy us. Sue us. We have nothing. You have the truth. And you have me. Diane closed the briefcase. I'm pulling my firm out of the merger, unless Marcus can prove he solved the algorithm himself. Which he can't. He'll be forced to either admit the fraud or demonstrate his supposed genius publicly. Naomi's hands shook. This is insane. This is justice. Diane stood. The signing is at 2 p.m. Ashford Tower Executive Conference Room. I can get you in as my guests. Bring Zara. Bring the original calculations. And bring that crystal puzzle box if you still have it. We don't have it. He does. In his office. On display. Diane's eyes glinted. I'll make sure it's at the signing. Trust me. She left cash on the table for coffee neither of them had ordered and walked out. Naomi sat in the empty coffee shop, staring at the algorithm. The merger signing? The cameras. The risk. Her phone buzzed. A text from the library. Final notice, overdue books under Zara's account, the textbooks. The dreams. The future that had been stolen. Naomi stood. Walked home. Opened the curtain where Zara sat, small and defeated. Baby, Naomi said softly. How would you like to solve one more puzzle? The executive conference room at Ashford Tower was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A table that could seat 30. Cameras mounted discreetly in corners. Reporters lined the back wall, cameras ready. Investors filled the seats. Board members from Thornfield Academy sat near the front. Marcus stood at the head of the table, perfectly composed. He wore a navy suit, royal blue tie, the confidence of a man who'd won before walking in. The merger documents were spread before him. $3 billion in paper and ink. Diane entered with Naomi and Zara. Heads turned. Whispers rippled through the room. What is this? Marcus's voice cut through the murmurs. This is a private signing. They're my guests, Diane said calmly. She took a seat. Gestured for Naomi and Zara to sit beside her. I have concerns about the merger I'd like addressed before signing. Marcus's jaw tightened. We've been through every detail. Not every detail. Diane pulled out a folder. The logistics algorithm. The one that saved this merger. I'd like to understand exactly how it was solved. We've been over this. Your team failed for 3 weeks. Diane's voice was steel. Then suddenly a solution appeared. Brilliant, elegant, seemingly out of nowhere. She opened the folder. I'd like you to explain the methodology. The room fell silent. Marcus's eyes flicked to Naomi, then to Zara. Understanding dawned on his face. Then rage. This is ridiculous, he said. I don't have to justify my work to... You do if you want my firm to sign. Diane leaned back. Explain the algorithm. Show us your genius. Unless you can't. Marcus's hands clenched. I solved it using modified Dijkstra's approach, with constraint optimization. It's complex, technical. I don't expect everyone here to... I understand it, Zara said. Every eye turned to her. She sat very still, hands folded on the table, wearing a yellow dress Naomi had pressed that morning. 12 years old, terrified, brave. Because I'm the one who solved it, Zara continued. Her voice was soft but clear. 3 weeks ago. My mum saw the problem on Mr. Ashford's computer. I worked on it over the weekend. Submitted the solution anonymously. That's absurd, Marcus said. Child, can you solve this? Diane slid the secondary algorithm across the table. Right now. In front of everyone. Prove your expertise. Marcus stared at the paper. The cameras hummed. Reporters leaned forward. He picked up a pen. His hand hovered over the page. Seconds passed. 10, 20, 30, sweat appeared on his forehead. It's a variant problem, Diane said. Similar structure. Should be easy for someone of your genius. Marcus set down the pen. I don't perform on demand like a circus act. Then let Zara try. Diane pulled the crystal puzzle box from her briefcase. It caught the light, familiar and impossible. She placed it in front of Zara. "Show them." Zara's hands reached for the box. The room held its breath. Her fingers moved. Click, rotate, slide. 15 seconds this time. The box opened. The diamond inside winked under the fluorescent lights. Gasps rippled through the room. Cameras flashed. "Now the algorithm," Diane said, sliding the paper to Zara. Zara picked up the pen. Her hand moved across the page. Equations flowed like water. Matrices, optimizations, constraint mappings. The reporters crowded closer, filming everything. Board members from Thornfield leaned forward, incredulous. 4 minutes. Zara set down the pen. "Done. The optimal distribution reduces transportation costs by 38%. You relocate Hub C to coordinate position 472 and redistribute the load using this weighted graph." Diane took the paper, pulled out her phone, photographed it, sent it somewhere, waited. Her phone buzzed. She read the response and smiled. "My team confirms the solution is correct." She looked at Marcus. "Care to explain how a 12-year-old solved both algorithms in minutes, while you couldn't solve either in weeks?" Marcus's face had gone pale. She had help. "This is staged. You're trying to sabotage. I have the metadata," Diane interrupted. "The original submission that saved your merger?" It came from an uploaded document. "A document with timestamps predating your supposed solution. A document I've traced back to this family." She pulled out more papers. "I also have testimony from staff members who witnessed you receiving the anonymous solution. And I have records showing you blocked this child's scholarship out of spite." The room erupted. Reporters shouting questions. Investors standing. Board members conferring urgently. "This is corporate espionage," Marcus shouted. "She stole confidential information." "You stole her work," Diane shot back. "Claimed it as your own. Then destroyed her future when she threatened your ego." A Thornfield board member stood, elderly, distinguished. "Mr. Ashford, is this true? Did you block this child's scholarship after she helped solve your business problem?" Marcus opened his mouth, closed it. "The cameras captured everything." His silence was admission enough. "The merger is off," Diane said, standing. "My firm doesn't do business with frauds." She looked at the other investors. "I suggest you review your positions carefully. Mr. Ashford's credentials are questionable at best, criminal at worst." She turned to Naomi and Zara. "Come on, we're done here." They walked out together, past the cameras, past the reporters, past Marcus Ashford's collapsing empire. Behind them, chaos erupted, shouting, accusations, the sound of a $3 billion deal dying in real time. Outside, the autumn sun was shining. Naomi took Zara's hand. They walked down the steps of Ashford Tower while the world watched. The news cycle was brutal. By evening, Marcus Ashford's face was on every screen. Billionaire CEO exposed. Child prodigy solved algorithm. Corporate fraud allegations rock merger deal. Thornfield board under fire for scholarship denial. The merger collapsed completely. Investors pulled out. Board investigations launched. Marcus resigned within 48 hours, citing personal reasons. His fabricated credentials made international headlines. The patents purchased and claimed as his own. The career built on stolen brilliance. Diane called Naomi 3 days later. "I'm offering you a position at my firm, operations manager. Decent salary, benefits, health insurance." A pause. "You're organized, observant. You see things others miss. That's valuable." Naomi accepted before Diane finished explaining the details. Thornfield Academy issued a formal apology. The board, minus Marcus, reinstated Zara's scholarship. Full tuition, 4 years guaranteed. A personal letter from the new board chair apologizing for the regrettable oversight. The new board chair was Diane Chen. By October, Naomi and Zara had moved to a 2-bedroom apartment with actual sunlight. Zara's room had a desk, bookshelves, space for the textbooks that were no longer borrowed but bought. The crystal puzzle box, gifted by Diane, sat on the shelf, catching afternoon light. Naomi stood in the kitchen watching Zara do homework at the table. Real homework now. Thornfield Academy assignments. Calculus problems that made Naomi's head hurt, but made Zara's eyes light up. On the wall hung a photograph. Ruth, Naomi's mother, young and strong, smiling at a camera. She'd never lived to see this. Never saw her granddaughter at Thornfield. Never saw Naomi in a real job with a real future. But Naomi felt her presence anyway, in the strength she'd inherited, in the resilience that had carried them through, in the quiet knowledge that survival was just the beginning. "Mom?" Zara looked up from her homework. "Thank you for believing me." For fighting, Naomi crossed the kitchen, kissed her daughter's forehead. "Always, baby, always." Outside the city hummed. Somewhere Marcus Ashford was facing federal investigations. Somewhere Diane was building cases and taking meetings and changing minds. Somewhere the world was slowly, painfully learning what Naomi had always known. Brilliance didn't ask permission. It didn't wait for approval. It simply was. And when you tried to dim it, to diminish it, to destroy it out of fear or pride or prejudice, the universe had a way of setting the record straight. Not always. Not easily. Not without cost, but sometimes. If you fought, if you refused to stay silent, if you remembered who you were, sometimes justice found its way home. 3 months later, Zara stood on Thornfield Academy's stage. The winter showcase. Students demonstrating projects. Parents watching. Teachers nodding approvingly. Zara presented her mathematics project. An optimization algorithm for urban food distribution. Helping underserved communities. Solving real problems. Her voice was steady, confident, free. Naomi sat in the audience beside Diane, both of them watching this brilliant girl own her space. Claim her future, become. After the presentation, Zara found them in the crowd. "How'd I do?" "You were perfect," Naomi said, and meant it. That night, back in their sunlit apartment, Zara sat at her desk. The crystal puzzle box caught the lamplight. She'd solved it 100 times now. Could do it blindfolded, but still found something beautiful in the pattern. The way impossible things became simple when you understood them. Her phone buzzed. A text from a Thornfield classmate. "Your presentation was amazing. Want to study together tomorrow? Friends, belonging, a future opening like dawn." Zara picked up the puzzle box, turned it in her hands. Thought about that night at Ashford Hall. The moment her fingers first touched crystal. The moment everything changed. Her mother's words. "Some battles are worth fighting even when you know you'll lose." Except they hadn't lost. Not really. Not where it mattered. She set the box back on the shelf. Opened her textbook. Lost herself in equations and possibilities and the beautiful infinite patterns of mathematics. Outside, the city glittered. Somewhere people underestimated brilliance, tried to keep it small, tried to dim lights that threatened their own. But light didn't work that way. It spread, it persisted. It found cracks and poured through them. And when you tried to extinguish it, sometimes, just sometimes, it burned brighter than ever before. The universe had a way of keeping score, of balancing equations, of ensuring that genius once recognized could never be erased. Zara smiled, picked up her pencil, and solved the next impossible problem.